Hey guys, in this video, I want to explain the foundational tools and products in a very detailed way that I use and that many detailers that I train use, and talk about why this is the foundational set of tools and products, and go into detail of what exactly these tools and products serve to do in the future of your detailing career. Now, as we go into this, I want to let you guys know below in the YouTube description box, if you haven't already, of course, you need to grab my free guide to starting your auto detailing business for under $500, because in that guide, I actually lay out all of the top 10 tools and products that I suggest for anyone starting in the business. And this way, you don't have to have your own learning curve where you test chemicals and waste money on things that don't work. You can just get right to what works. Now, let's go ahead and get into the video. Here is an interior of a Toyota Corolla. This is a biannually maintenance client of mine. So you'll see the interior and the exterior done in the summertime and the wintertime. But this is just specifically the interior. Now, the first tool that I want to talk about and product that I want to talk about in this video is Meguiar's All-Purpose Cleaner. Now, you guys know that I've talked about this particular cleaner for a very long time, for years in fact, and I want to dive into the detail as to why that is. Number one, anything that's on my fundamental list of tools and products serves as a basis for other products and tools. And what I mean by that is it serves as an outside reference point where you can use the particular tool and product I'm talking about as a foundation of understanding of other products in this particular category. To contextualize that a little bit, what I mean is Meguiar's All-Purpose Cleaner gives you a perfect foundational understanding of how all-purpose cleaners work, what they do, where they're best to be used, what they don't do, what their limitations are, and all of those things. And in many ways in the detailing world, you need to have something as an outside reference that you can refer to as far as just having a little bit of understanding before you move on to other things. So for example, with ceramic coatings, it's really important to get your hands on a very fundamental elementary ceramic coating that's easy to apply, because it just gives you the perspective of the nature of the beast, and it's much easier to move to higher level ceramic coatings that are a bit more finicky to apply. The same is true of paint correction, right? If you get the Griot's Garage 6-inch dual action polisher, you're not going to damage anything. It's very, very safe, and it's a perfect way to learn the nature of the beast when it comes to paint correction, what polishes do, what they don't do, what the limitations are, what the advantage are, all those things. So Meguiar's All-Purpose Cleaner serves perfectly in that category, and it's why it's been on my foundational tool and product list for so many years. In addition to that, Meguiar's APC serves as the perfect kind of middleman between aggressive, accomplish the job you need it to accomplish, effectiveness, efficiency, and safety. So not only is it something that I use, but it's something that I don't hesitate to refer other people to use, even if they've never detailed the interior or the exterior of a vehicle before. It's something that is very, very difficult to damage anything with. Now, in addition to the safety aspect, the other qualifying kind of category here is versatility. Versatility is simply my way of saying, can this tool or product be used in more than just one specific area of the car? And I'm going to get into the measurements I use in just a second. But Meguiar's All-Purpose Cleaner not only can be used, of course, on the interior, but it can be used on virtually every surface of the interior. In fact, there are people who even use it to prepare glass. Now, I'm not saying you should do that, but my point in saying that is simply that it is going to be one of the most versatile tools in your arsenal as it is in mine. It can also be used on the exterior. It can be used to remove tar, bugs. It can be used to clean the tire sidewalls, wheel wells. In fact, you could even use it on wheels, though, of course, alkaline cleaners are not what I suggest using on wheels. The point here is obvious. The versatility of this product kind of makes it a shoe-in for the fundamental list of tools and products. Now, in addition to that, I want to talk about the microfiber towels that I'm using on the interior here. A lot of you guys have asked me to create a video where I go into detail about exactly what I'm using and why, and get a little bit more expansive than just the top 10 list, and that's what I'm doing here. The microfiber towels that I use for the interior of vehicles, they're actually a brand called Members Mark, and this is actually Sam's, I believe, like personal brand. Like Costco's is Kirkland. It's kind of Sam's original brand. It's the Members Mark towels. Now, as someone who has detailed for the past 10 years, I can tell you I have used basically every microfiber towel there is out there to use. And when it comes to interior detailing on the average car, the Toyota Camry, Corolla, Honda Pilot, BMW M6, just like classic cars, okay? We're not talking about necessarily Lamborghinis and Ferraris, but just these regular cars that you're likely to see all the time. The interior microfiber towels that make the most sense to me are the Members Mark microfiber towels because, number one, price point. You can buy these in packs of 36, which again, I'm going to hook all this stuff up in the YouTube description box below. You can buy them in packs of 36, so you get a ton for your money. In addition to that, you can more or less go through these towels at a pretty quick rate without breaking the bank and hurting the bottom line. In addition to that, when it comes to microfiber towels, they're measured in GSM, grams per square meter. So people say, the average microfiber towel is around 300 to 400 GSM. That's kind of like your standard microfiber towels. These fall in that category. However, there are different ratios of the way microfiber towels are constructed that make them either more absorbent or more grabby, basically. Those are kind of the two divisions in microfiber towels that are important to understand for those of you who are detailed like me and you actually care about these nuanced details. Microfiber towels can be basically manufactured with either more of this or more of this, and I'm not going to get into that, but it'll basically make them either more grabby, kind of more what you would say like abrasive maybe, or more absorbent. So your waffle weave towels are very absorbent. These particular towels from the Members Mark brand at Sam's, and they're on Amazon, by the way, as well, for I believe the same price as they are at Sam's. These are the perfect ratio of this absorbency and grabbiness that I want for the interior. Now, I'm going to be specific. I do not use these towels on the exterior. I use many different towels on the exterior, but for the interior specifically, these are basically the only towels I use for cleaning. When it comes to finishing the interior or finishing the glass, I'll use different towels, of course, and we'll get to that, but these towels specifically are what I use. They're perfect economically. They're perfect from a perspective where you can view them as disposable, you can reuse them, you can downgrade them after you've washed them a few times, and they are the perfect ratio for the interior needs that you are going to have. Okay, I can promise you that. Now, in addition to the microfiber towels, the next most important thing is probably to talk about spray bottles. See, some of these things are kind of uninteresting, but they're extremely important for the professional detailer because these are the things that kind of you're dealing with in your day-to-day world. So yes, there's a ton of YouTube videos about torture tests and about blowing things up and, does this ceramic is better than this ceramic, and all those things are important. But truth be told, these fundamentals that we don't talk about too much are unbelievably important because this is what we deal with on a daily basis. Spray bottles are one of the most frustrating areas of detailing for all of us just because we're naturally hard on spray bottles because we're moving fast, we're getting through things, we're tossing them around. And in addition to that, you're dealing with chemicals and you're dealing with plastics, right? So particularly with like acidic cleaners, you'll find that the kind of like inner little plastic filter on the spray trigger will actually degrade because of the acidic cleaners, and cleaners in general will cause these to degrade over time. And then all of a sudden you'll get that one random spray bottle that lasts like 10 years and you're like, why did this one last and none of the others did? And so as detailers, these are things that we all deal with. And so it is important to more or less, once again, like the microfiber towels, basically find the happy medium between economics, right? The finances behind it, how much are we paying, how much are we going through, and the user experience with the spray bottles, because this is so fundamental to everything we do as we're detailing a car. We can't be using a spray bottle that's uncomfortable or hard with our wrists or fingers or anything like that. These gray triggered bottles that you see me using in this video, I get them from carsupplieswarehouse.com. No, this is not sponsored or anything like that, but this is just where you can buy them in bulk. And so they may be back ordered right now, but the bottles as well as the spray triggers are what I buy from carsupplieswarehouse.com. And yes, I'll hook up links. So just so you guys know, the best way to think about these spray bottles is, number one, the bottles themselves are not going to degrade quickly, right? Unless you're dropping them from like a 2-story building and you're cracking them. The bottles are not where we need to worry. It is the spray triggers, right? It's the triggers themselves that break down. And that's actually good for us simply because We can have our fundamental chemicals, and we have 10, 12, 15 bottles, whatever it is in your detailing business. And you can bulk order these spray triggers in, 20, 25, 30 rounds, and you're going to have plenty for the next several months or maybe even year, depending on your detailing business. But in addition to that, I want to give you guys a quick little tip that will naturally help your bottles survive over time a little bit easier. We can actually take the spray trigger out of the bottle after we're done using it, whether it's Meguiar's All-Purpose Cleaner or Wheel Brightener or whatever the product is, and dip the tube into clean water, like a bucket of clean water or a bottle of clean water, and spray the trigger until the only thing coming through is the clean water. So basically, we're rinsing out the trigger. Then we can spray out all of the water until there's nothing in there. And basically what this is going to do is probably just common sense, but you're cleaning out the chemicals and you're spraying out the water. So the trigger has been rinsed and it is now empty, and you can stick it back into the cleaner bottle, back into the Meguiar's All-Purpose Cleaner, because the cleaner is not in the head of the trigger itself. And this is going to actually cause the spray trigger to not degrade over time. So that's just a good little rule of thumb. In many ways, you might find specific products and chemicals that you need to do this with, and you don't need to do them with others. For example, I do not do this with my Meguiar's All-Purpose Cleaner, but I do it with the Meguiar's Wheel Brightener because it is an acidic cleaner. Now, moving on from these spray triggers, obviously detailing brushes are next, and you guys know that in my recent videos in the past 6 to 8 months, maybe even year, I've been talking about the work stuff detailing brushes because, truth be told, I just think they're some of the best brushes on the market, and those are exactly what I'm using in this video. They come in all different shapes and sizes, bristle lengths, and there's just a serious level of versatility that you get to choose from when it comes to these brushes. So it's kind of an automatic win just from there, because most brushes you find on Amazon come in these kits where they're all designed one way, they're very cheap, all this sort of stuff. So while these brushes are not the least expensive, they're certainly not the most expensive, and they are the best that I've found for my detailing business in particular. So to break detailing brushes down a little bit into some detail regarding bristle length and some details that you may not be aware of. Number one, I just want to say that when detailing brushes say boar's hair natural bristles, this does not necessarily mean that these are literally boar's hair bristles that came from an animal that are not, there's nothing fake about them. This might mean that it's a 50-50 blend. It might mean that it's just in its natural coloring. It doesn't necessarily mean it's from an animal, okay? So as someone who actually personally has worked with Chinese manufacturers and Vietnamese manufacturers and things like this in developing different brushes and all that sort of stuff and working with companies, I just want to make you aware of that, because a lot of times people are like, well, I'm not going to buy these because they are made of real animal hair and the animal hair is going to break down and all that stuff. That is actually not necessarily true. Sometimes that might be true, but it is not necessarily true. In addition to that, most brushes are made out of this filament material, this nylon bristle brush, and many of the work stuff detailing brushes are as well. You'll find them in orange, the bristles being orange color, black color, natural color, white color. Basically, I like to break down detailing brushes in a few different categories. Number one, I like to have a main detailing brush that I use for the interior. This is a brush that gets wet with my chemical. It's a brush that's maybe about between 1 inch and 2 inches in length. It might be 2 inches in length, truth be told. And this is generally a boar's hair color or a natural color. This is one that's very easy to use on every surface, cup holders, transmission, steering wheel, console, in the carpets if I need to use it. It's kind of an all-purpose, all-around brush. In addition to that, for the interior, I like to have a longer bristle brush with less bristles, meaning if you were to measure the diameter, it would be a much smaller diameter than the brush that I just referenced. This is a thin detailing brush with not a lot of bristles, but long bristles that are easy to get in these really tiny cracks and crevices. This is going to allow me to remove suds if I need to remove water from the steamer, from the steamer, or remove some dust from really specific places if I need to. It's something that's very, very helpful to have, especially when you're dealing with buttons. In addition to that, I like to have basically a brush that is equivalent to the first one that I mentioned. That's kind of a general purpose brush, but it's shorter bristles, which makes it more aggressive. This is what I like to use on leather seats that are fairly delicate, that I don't want to clean to too many extremes, but they need to be cleaned because of those textured pieces inside of the leather where the dirt builds up in those mountains and valleys, and it's very difficult to remove if you can't get bristles in there. It's best to have a stiffer brush, and when the bristles are shorter, by necessity, just because of the way physics works. It is going to be more aggressive, even if it's got really soft bristles. In addition to that, and really the last, what I would call necessary detailing brush to have for the interior, is simply a dusting brush. And the same company, Work Stuff, again, this is not sponsored. This is just me telling you exactly what I use personally and professionally in my business. The Work Stuff company also has a detailing brush that is a very, very, very soft material that's basically as soft as a makeup brush that serves as a dusting brush. This is going to be necessary simply because most of the modern vehicles, the newer manufactured cars, especially around the radio, around the steering wheel, and kind of that particular area of the car, is made of these wood veneers or clear-coated pieces that scratch extremely, extremely easily. In the same way, the navigation screen scratches extremely easily and is delicate. And you need a brush to address this area in an effective way, but in a way that is going to make sure you're leading with safety first. And so that is definitely what I would suggest. That's 4 different brushes. Now, in addition to that I wouldn't put in the same category as these detailing brushes, is the Toothbrush detailing brush that you saw me just a second ago using on the accelerator and the brake pedal. This toothbrush is going to be necessary simply because you're going to run into situations where you can use a very aggressive form of a brush, which is that, and it's going to get into tiny, tiny places. For example, the brake pedal is that scenario simply because, think about it, it's got these tiny little designs, tiny little textured pieces. You're not going to be able to get in there with a microfiber towel or a non-abrasive scrub pad or anything like that. And the steamer uses really good kind of water to rinse it, right? So it makes it a really, really good little double punch combo there, right? In the same way, the toothbrush is going to be used for things like tiny cracks and crevices on door panels. It's going to be used for the seams of the leather seats when necessary. It can even be used to scrub different stains underneath seats when you're trying to do the carpets. This can come in handy with so many different things. Now, moving on to the next tool, of course, I would be remiss if I did not talk about the steamer. Now, just to give you guys a little bit of anticipation and excitement, I am going to be introducing an all-new steamer on the Wilson Auto Detailing YouTube channel in the coming months. I haven't yet received it, but it is a steamer that's much more economical and much more affordable than the one that I use professionally, and it's going to be really attractive to a lot of you guys who are in the business and who are wanting to see different tools, different options with a tool like this. Now, to get into the same categories regarding the steamer as I've done with these other products. The first and most important thing to address with the steamer is the obvious versatility. This is a tool that can be used on very literally, and I say every part, of course you guys have to understand, of course, there's 1% to 2% of everything that any product or tool can't be used on, but the steamer can be used on basically every single solitary part of the interior of the vehicle. And because of that, the versatility is so common sense and so obvious. I say, in my opinion, the steamer is something that you cannot afford to go without, no matter what stage your detailing business is in. I think that this is one of the most, if not the most, fundamental tool that you need to add in your arsenal. We don't need to worry about extractors right now. We don't need to worry about other more expensive things, but the steamer is something that absolutely is just, I think it's something you can't go without. And just so you guys know, I use a steamer called the VX5000. This is not a dedicated mobile detailing steamer or anything like that, but it is a dedicated steamer. And so I don't know that there is any dedicated mobile detailing steamer. Though, that being said, the VX5000, I believe, is about between $900 and $1,000. So it is more of an investment. But I will say I've been using this steamer for the past 4 years now, the past 4.5 years, maybe 5 years. And I bought it because of, number one, the raging reviews. Number two, it's extremely, extremely well built, and I believe it's actually built in the United States. I believe it's American manufactured, American made. It's extremely well built, extremely quality, extremely durable. In addition to that, it offers this perfect mix of pressure and power. It's the exact pressure, exact power I want. It's more powerful than most other steamers, most less expensive steamers. So it is something you need to learn how to use over time. However, in addition to that, it's extremely, extremely portable because it's extremely small. Now, in addition to it being portable and small, it actually doesn't need to be replaced with a bunch of water or refilled with a bunch of water in the middle of a detail like a lot of these other steamers do. So this ends up being a huge selling point when it comes to steamers. How often on average are you going to have to refill the steamer in the middle of your detail or 3/4 of the way through the detail because you've run out of water? This is yet another reason why I bought the VX5000 and continue to use it, and it has continued to be over the last several years my go-to steamer. Once again, this is not sponsored. I'm simply explaining to you what I use professionally. So yes, it is more expensive, but if you were to say, well, how much time am I saving in the fact that maybe 1 out of every 15 or 1 out of every 20 cars, I actually have to refill it. But it truly is that rare because it does take some time to actually unscrew, refill the steamer, put the top back on and let it heat back up. It does eat into your detail time and kind of just your overall frustration and attitude as you're detailing. So this is just another big selling point for me in the VX5000 steamer. Now, that being said, most steamers that people in the detailing world buy in the beginning stages, and even people who have very established detailing business, are not necessarily the VX5000, but detailers really love the McCulloch steamers. So I will hook up those below because the most expensive one, I believe, is $200. And even at that lower price point, I've seen very little to no negative reviews on those steamers. And those are also very portable, not as portable as the VX5000. And I'm grading portability by size, by the way, and weight. So the VX5000 is very small and very light. And it's very, very easy to tote around. The McCulloch that I'm going to hook up, that's $200, I believe, is a little bit bigger and a little bit more cumbersome to tote around. It's also made of plastic, not metal. But that being said, it is, in my opinion, the preferred detailing steamer for auto detailers. Now, guys, one of the things that I'm going to put in this fundamental list is going to throw you off a little bit, and I'm going to call it the GoPro camera. This is going to confuse some of you, so I want to explain here. One of the reasons that I'm adding a camera or a GoPro camera into your essential detailing products and tools formula is because of this. When you implement regular social media content into your detailing business, over time, you naturally reach points of critical mass where your business begins to grow at exponential rates. I've been trying to explain this to people for years, but detailers really don't seem to listen or take the strategy. Now, I launched my Detailing Profits Masterclass, my online program, in November, and that program is currently shut down, meaning no one is allowed in. Only the people who got in when it was open actually are now allowed to stay in. But we will open up that again, which is basically where we teach you how to build an auto detailing business from the ground up successfully to make a minimum of $2,000 to $5,000 per month through that detailing business at a minimum. So we literally walk you through exactly how to build an unbelievably successful detailing business, from hands-on detailing training to hands-on business training. So if you're interested in that, actually, I'm going to hook up a link below where you can put in your email and we will notify you when we open that program back up so that you can get in and you don't miss it. The reason I'm talking about this is because in that program, we talk a ton about how to build an unbelievably effective and efficient auto detailing business through video strategies and particular social media strategies. A GoPro is going to be such an easy way for you to up close and personal document what you're doing as you're doing the detail. And the detailing industry is unique in that potential customers love to see the work you're doing. For example, when you post videos on Instagram like this of doing the door jams, people love to see the work in action, and it is an unbelievable marketing technique that in many ways the detailing industry and people inside of it are still not taking advantage of it. So I would encourage you guys to incorporate some sort of video strategy through something like a GoPro in your detailing business. Now, guys, the next tool that I want to introduce here is a little bit unconventional again, because normally we're just talking about, specific detailing chemicals and all that sort of stuff. But one of the most important things in your detailing business, kind of like I'm talking a bit unconventionally with the GoPro, is your organizational tools, your ability to organize things in the proper way. And this is where I bring in this conversation about the 27-gallon tote bucket. These are these 27-gallon tote buckets that you might have seen in different videos videos of mine in passing, but I've never really talked about them super directly. And the 27-gallon tote bucket is basically what I put all my chemicals in. So I have them separated out depending on what bucket is there. Like I have more of an interior bucket, more of an exterior bucket, but they hold all the chemicals, they hold certain tools and products, and these are two really large tote buckets that end up fitting in a sedan-sized car, in a big van, no matter kind of what vehicle you're using to detail, or specifically if you're stationary, then this doesn't really apply to you. You can, of course, just keep these in your garage. They're extremely easy to move and extremely easy to organize things, and in addition to that, they're basically a protection in case liquid spills, bottles break, all that sort of stuff. You're not getting chemicals everywhere. You're getting chemicals in the tote bucket. And as a mobile detailer for the past 10 years, I can tell you guys, having something like this to not only protect against chemical spills, but also make it really easy to organize is something that's just a non-negotiable in my opinion, simply because you will have bottles break and you'll be so glad that the chemicals were in the tote bucket. And then in addition to that, you need a system of organization that basically, I think the best way to think about it is it reduces your requirement to have to think. Okay, so what I'm saying by that is in the moment as you're detailing, one of the biggest time sucks and time wastes is when you're having to anticipate and think about what you're going to grab, where you're going to grab it from, where you put it, all this sort of stuff. So when you have a serious organizational strategy using these things like the 27-gallon tote buckets, and you know exactly where things are and where they are within the buckets and what buckets they're in, you basically become like this robot. I don't mean it in a negative way. I mean it in a positive way. You can kind of like do things while you're detailing without even thinking about it. So you guys who have detailed before, you probably know what I'm saying, but you get so used to detailing and you get so in the zone that you end up like reaching for stuff like kind of like on automatic without even thinking about it because it's just second nature, right? It's like riding a bike. You don't have to think about balancing. You just kind of do it on automatic. That's the way this kind of works as well with these 27-gallon tote buckets. Now, the most common detailing vacuum, probably because of YouTube videos like this one and like past ones that I've made and like many other detailers have made on YouTube, is the 4-gallon rigid shop vac. The 4-gallon rigid shop vac is not a detailing specific vacuum. And by the way, yes, I know it's not technically called a shop vac because shop vac is in and of itself its own company and own brand, but I call it the rigid shop vac because shop vac also carries this connotation of like the type of vacuum I'm talking about. So it's just the easiest way for me to describe it, okay? So don't rail me in the comments, all right? But that being said, this 4-gallon rigid vacuum is what I would suggest for any detailer of any type, mobile, stationary, advanced, beginner, anything. This particular vacuum has more than enough suction. One of the things detailers overestimate all the time in the beginning stages of their business is the amount of power they're going to need with certain tools. So to contextualize it to the vacuum, what we're saying here is that you do not need an overly powerful vacuum in order to get what you need done. That's what I'm saying here. The vacuum with the 4-gallon rigid is so powerful enough to make whatever you need to happen. You're not going to be running into these crazy vehicles where the 4-gallon is not going to be enough. I know some detailers would disagree with me on that, but I'm telling you, just from a financial perspective, from a portability perspective, from a power perspective, this particular vacuum reaches all of those kind of thresholds and categories perfectly. It's very inexpensive. I believe it's under $100. It's extremely portable because it's only 4 gallons and the size makes it unbelievably easy to carry around. It's also extremely convenient and its power is enough for you. Now, I do want to put in a little qualifier here. The case hose that the vacuum will come with is actually not the hose that I would suggest you get. So this is the one kind of additional accessory I would suggest buying in addition to the rigid 4-gallon vacuum. There is a hose that you can buy from Home Depot, generally speaking, in the rigid section. This is going to be the hose that I'm using in this video here. It's orange. You can see how the hose is orange. It's basically a hard plastic material, whereas the hose that comes with the case is going to be fairly thin and relatively cheap plastic. So what ends up happening as you're using it is the suction from the vacuum is so powerful that it creates this powerful suction where the vacuum hose begins to concave inwards. So when you buy this hard, sort of like durable, non-malleable hose, you're not going to have to worry about about any of that happening. It's going to be super stable and it's going to last a really long time. And I promise you, the hose that is just the one I'm using in this video is what you want. It's going to make your life way, way easier. Now, this moves me on to, in the video, one of my favorite tools and products that has ever existed for all of eternity. I call it the ninth wonder of the world. This is the drill brush. Now, for those of you who don't know, the drill brushes that you're going to see me using in this video are available in the YouTube description box below. I actually created a Wilson Auto Detailing specific set of drill brushes that includes every single drill brush, including the one you see in this video, the round yellow one, including every drill brush that you need as an auto detailer. I found that as a detailer, the drill brushes were one of the most effective and one of the most inexpensive tools that I could ever find or ever use. But the drawback was there was no detailing set of drill brushes. They were all kind of rather non-specific. You know, it was like, here's these 4 here, here's these 2 here, here's these 7 here, all in different sets. And in order to get all of the drill brushes that you would need as a detailer, you had to buy like 5 or 6 different sets of brushes just to get the 8 or 9 that you need, and you would throw the rest away because they weren't safe or usable for a car. So I decided to actually put together a Wilson Auto Detailing set of drill brushes that is all-encompassing and includes every single drill brush, every adapter, and even a carrying case that you would possibly need, where you can just find a one-stop shop drill brush product that'll give you everything you need. So definitely go below in the YouTube description box and check out that product. They're on Amazon. No pressure to buy them if you don't need them, but I'm just letting you know they are there. Now, the reason why these different drill brushes become so effective in the detailing world is for a few things, and I want to break those down. The one that you just saw, the yellow one that's on the drill right now, that basically I'm using to on the Impossible carpeting, is these particular yellow drill brushes, the medium stiffness ones, which, by the way, the drill brush set that I created that's in the YouTube description box below, all of the bristles are even specifically made as far as the stiffness and the bristle count for cars, so they're very, very safe for vehicles. Because the other thing, in addition to not being able to find a one-stop shop drill brush set, was not being able to find a drill brush set that was actually safe for all vehicles, because the bristles were not designed for vehicles only. So these are designed for vehicles only, and they're very, very safe. But I use the round drill brush attachment because it's going to work on the Impossible carpeting in a very, very simple way. It's going to pull up any of those crumbs, dirt, debris, pet hair that might be on there that's really difficult to get out. But any of the dirt or debris that's been sitting on the Impossible carpeting for more than just a small period of time is going to kind of get lodged underneath the endless web of fibers in the carpet. And because of that, we have to basically pull the dirt out from under the carpet fibers themselves, and the round drill brush does that by simply grabbing it and slinging it out onto the surface of the carpet, where it can be easily vacuumed up. In addition to that, of course, we have drill brushes that are 4 inches in diameter used for the seats that we're going to get into in just a second. But the drill brushes are the perfect crossroads between efficiency, cost effectiveness, versatility, and results-driven things. This is one of those rare times in the world where you can spend very little money and get an unbelievable result and an unbelievable return. These cost so little money, and yet they increase your detailing ability at such a high level. It's just a non-negotiable. So yes, I'm biased because these are my brushes, but the reason why I created the brushes in the first place is because of the truth of what I'm talking to you about right now. Now, the next drill brush that you're going to see me use is just a standard 4-inch in diameter drill brush. You see that it's white bristle. Generally speaking, the white bristle drill brushes across the board, no matter who you buy them from, are going to be the softest, the least aggressive, essentially. And these are kind of your standard 4-inch in diameter circle drill brushes. They also come in this same exact kit I'm talking about, with the yellow medium stiffness and the red extreme stiffness. So enough about those brushes. I think I've made my point as to why I think they're so fundamental. The last major thing that I really want to talk about here is an extractor, and I want to break this down in some pretty vivid detail here, just like I'm doing with all the tools and products in this video, talking about the why behind them. So in this particular video and this scene here you're watching, I'm using an extractor called the Mighty Light 8070 heated carpet extractor. This is not the extractor that I started with, and it is not the first extractor that I necessarily suggest a detailer getting. The first thing I want to talk about here is what extractor should you get based on the stage you are at in your detailing business, because it's kind of the most immediate question that needs to be answered before we talk about the usefulness of an extractor and whether or not you need it. If you are in the market for one, if you've already decided you need it, if you've decided it's going to be a part of your fundamental list of tools and products, the two major extractors that I suggest are, number one, the one I'm using in this video, which is a bit more expensive, around $1,100, the Mighty Light 8070 heated carpet extractor, or the Aqua Pro Vac carpet extractor, which is not heated, and it sits at about the $500 price point, not the $1,100 of the extractor that you see here. Now, for those of you wondering why the price difference, the simplest answer I can give you is going to be in the heat, in the power of the extractor as a whole. Of course, when you buy a priced extractor at half the price of this particular extractor, you're going to experience less suction, less, maybe you might call it atomization of the water, kind of pressure, PSI of the water, less overall power would be a good way to say it. But that being said, one of the best ways to conceptualize extractors is this. A lot of times we look at extractors as if we need the best one, the most powerful one. That's always the question detailers are asking. What's the most powerful extractor? What's the most powerful extractor? And the best way to think about this is, what's the threshold under which your extractor needs to operate? So for example, this particular vehicle, these particular seats that I'm detailing are not unusually dirty. This particular modern type of cloth seat gets dirty over time. You'll see some staining, kind of rings that are made around the seat. It's why I'm using a dedicated carpet shampoo from Renegade here, as well as my drill brushes. But the extracting is not necessarily something that's super complicated in this situation, because they're not overly dirty seats. They're just the average dirt that you see with this type of material over time because of the nature of the material. This particular extractor is not necessarily the one that I have to use in order to get the same results that I'm getting in this video. Could I have used the Aqua Pro Vac to get these results? Yes, I could have. So that's what I'm saying when I'm talking about this idea of what's the threshold under which your extractor needs to operate in order to get you the results you want based on the majority of situations that you're in. So the question is not what is the most powerful extractor. The question is, what extractor do I need based on the 99% of cars I'm seeing that is going to take care of basically the dirt in that type of vehicle. So if I'm dealing with the minivan with white to tan sort of off-white seats that are cloth, that have never been detailed in 10 years, and they're just absolutely disgusting, of course it's a different situation. But the point being here is, if that particular overly dirty, disgusting type of vehicle is not the majority of what you're seeing, then you need to question why you're trying to justify the crazy expensive extractor. So that being said, is an extractor essential to your detailing business? Is it a part of the fundamentals? Well, this is probably the only tool in this video that I will qualify and say, this can be something that you don't have to start with. It doesn't have to be something that you buy from the outset, but rather can be something that you grow into over time. And I simply say that because if you are limiting your growth in your detailing business based on not having this particular tool, you're still leaving a ton of money on the table with other vehicles that don't require extraction and can still sort of get a result without an extractor over time, and you can at least start to get cash flow, get customers, and start your business. You don't have to necessarily have this tool. However, over time, this tool becomes more and more necessary for obvious reasons. This particular type of cloth material that's in these modern vehicles, Toyota Camrys, Corollas, Honda Pilots, sort of the entry-level Toyotas, Hondas, Kias, all that sort of stuff, it's kind of a stretched sort of really tight, low GSM sort of material, for lack of a better term. It's not your traditional fibrous carpeting. And because of that, it's actually very difficult to address without an extractor many times. And so this is just one particular example of why an extractor might be necessary, but it is not, again, the overwhelming sort of majority of vehicles that I see. The extractor is something that I probably pull out 1 in 4, 1 in 5 vehicles. It's not necessarily something that I'm having to do every single time. Generally speaking, also, when I'm dealing with just my maintenance clients, this is never a tool that I have to pull out whatsoever. It is only ever pulled out on vehicles that I've never seen before, depending on their condition, or depending on the type of time that I'm going to save and results that I'm going to get by pulling it out without necessarily going about it a different way, even though I could go about it a different way if I wanted to without having to pull out the big machine. If it's going to save me time by doing it and get me great results, then I'll go ahead and do that anyways. And so this is one of those things that I would say I'm putting it actually at the bottom of the list just because, yes, it is important. It is an important tool to understand. It's an important tool to consider, but it's not necessarily something that you have to start with, and it's not something that you have to have the best. But that being said, I will link up, just like all of the tools and products that we've talked about here in the YouTube description box below, the Extractor, the Aqua Pro Vac, the less expensive version, and the Mighty Light 8070 that I'm using here in this video as well for those of you who want to check it out. But hopefully, guys, this video helped you kind of understand and explain the why behind some of these fundamental lists of tools and products, and to give you a little bit of an idea of some off-color things that you might want to start implementing in your detailing business that you might not have thought just from a common sense point of view unless someone would have told you about it, like the GoPro, like the organizational tools, and all that sort of stuff. Guys, once again, if you want to get on the waiting list to get notified when we launch the online program again on how to start your auto detailing business and make $2,000 to $5,000 a month through your detailing business, working part-time and using the maintenance client strategy, then go below and hit that link in the YouTube description box. Put your email in, and we're not going to spam you or anything like that. We're just going to, once again, notify you when the course is open and you can join again. If you want to get my free guide to starting your detailing business for under $500, that link will be in the description box below with the products and tools that we've talked about in this video. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, keep working hard, and I will see you in the next video.
Yeah, yeah.